short shows, updates, and interviews. The only way is the right way, I might say. Nobody doing it better, y'all some lightweights. Malik Wright, up all day and all night, pushing all the buttons up to something till it's alright. He looking at it from all sides and angles. Got a stripes on his body like he played for the Bengals. Oh man, there's no one discussing it. They came, they stayed, they either did it or done it. Man, I love it, cause all they ever do is win. So kick that, relax, the TWSN.
Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Sit Down Morning Show with Malik Wright. I'm your host, Malik Wright, joined by my co-host, as always, Daniel Alameda, Jimmy on the ones and twos. We got a lot of stuff to talk about, a lot of stuff to get into. But before we do us a favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, turn on post notifications so you guys never miss when we go live, when we upload content from the TWSN studios. With that being said, let's start it off with the topic of discussion this morning. The Saints fired Dennis Allen. And, this felt like a move that was coming.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like this was inevitable, if you ask me. I would say the expectation to win in New Orleans is very high. You can't start slow. Losing to a team like the Panthers, and obviously you saw Cam Jordan's reaction. Right. You saw Cam Jordan's reaction at the end of the game as they were walking back to the locker room. You saw how some of the players were coming on social media apologizing for losing. Now, understand, this is the NFL. This is the National Football League. You know how high your standard has to be for players to come out and apologize to their fan base for losing a game.
Yeah.
That means that tells me everything I need to know. That tells me that this team believes that they're head and shoulders, unequivocally, better than the Carolina Panthers. And they felt like this was an all-time low. That was a loss that helps you lose the fan base, that helps you lose the locker room. And what's crazy? We were actually expecting to start the show off by talking about Derek Carr and some of his errant throws and some of the discussion surrounding Mike Thomas, their former star wide receiver, who was very vocal on social media yesterday. It makes you wonder, though, where do the Saints go from here? They fired Dennis Allen. What's next for them? Danny, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that this is first off, it's a great move, and it's a move that was necessary, Malik. I mean, this is a team, they've got a lot of talent on their team. You cannot lose 7 straight games in the NFL and expect no consequences. That's the fact of the matter, right? Any team, that goes for the Cincinnati Bengals, that goes for the Buffalo Bills, whatever team you are, if you lose 7 straight games, there are going to be consequences. In my opinion, the order of blame goes from head coach to quarterback or from coordinators to head coach to quarterback to the organization if all 3 of those don't work out. So the first thing to go is a Dennis Allen, right? Dennis Allen was 18-25 as the head coach of the New Orleans Saints. The past couple of years, they were a team that was extremely talented, but they could never get over the hump. And Dennis Allen was always a guy where he was always just struggling as head coach from game management, late game stuff, pretty much everything that involves dealing with the intricacies of the game, especially these close games with the New Orleans Saints. That's what concerned me with a guy like Dennis Allen. And for Saints fans, they should be happy right now. They should be happy not that Dennis Allen was a terrible head coach, but the fact that he's gone and you guys at least get something new, because the outburst and the outcry from all Saints fans yesterday after the game needed some sort of change. And this at least shows you're moving in the right direction. This at least shows you're moving towards a better future. So I'm a huge fan of this. I think that this is a much needed move. I think that this is a move that Saints fans should be happy about and should be excited to look into the future. So when I look at the rest of the Saints team, I don't think that this fixes everything, and nor it should. I think the organization has some serious flaws, right? The past 3 years, they've been in this limbo of, hey, we're going to try to compete regardless of us losing our head coach and Sean Payton. We're going to try to compete regardless of us losing our all-pro, one of the all-time great quarterbacks in Drew Brees multiple years ago. And they just really haven't been the same team since. And they're a team where they're just chugging along. And when you look at every single team that's had success, that's, went over the hump, a lot of times they went through some really bad years, or they very quickly went and got a new quarterback for the organization. Look at the Kansas City Chiefs, right? They were a team where they had an Alex Smith. They were always a very solid team, but they fell upon and drafted a young quarterback that became their franchise quarterback. And that's how they went over and got over their hump. You look at a team like the Buffalo Bills, right? The Buffalo Bills were a team always in mediocre land, right? The EJ Manuels of the world, the Tyrod Taylors of the world. These are guys that Bills fans put their hopes into. And how did they get over the hump? How did they get into serious playoff contention? They went and they drafted a franchise quarterback. So this Saints team, the path that they were trying to go was they were trying to get an average quarterback in Derek Carr and surround him with great talent. Well, Malik, they're at a point they don't have great talent on their team. They're at a point where they have a bottom 5 offensive line. So I'm looking at this point squarely at the organization. I'm saying, hey, you guys are paying these old dudes, Samaro Davis, stud, Cam Jordan, stud, Marcus Lattimore, stud. But these dudes are getting older. The offensive line, which was once great, they're older and they're no longer here. So when I look at the Saints team, this sparks a rebuild, and this should spark for Saints fans, hey, a turning of a new leaf. Derek Carr is a fine quarterback. I really appreciate him as a person. I think he's a stand-up dude. I think he's a stand-up individual. When it comes to an organization building, Derek Carr is not the guy. So what's your pathway forward, right? Your pathway forward is to get off of these older contracts, to get off of these big money guys. And this upcoming offseason, you're going to have a lot of money in free agency. You're going to have a lot of leeway and room to roam around. So if I'm the Saints right now, if I'm the Saints organization, I'm looking at this as turning a new leaf. I'm looking at this, you're 2-7. I wouldn't tank the season away, albeit it may be smart so you get a lot higher draft pick. I think that the culture matters in the locker room. I think that you have to go out and at least show some fight. So if I'm the Saints, I'm looking to fight. I'm looking to get myself at least rattle off a couple wins, because if they go on a run, Malik, they're still going to have a top 10 pick. At 2-7, you're still going to have a top 10 pick. So go on a run, try to get some confidence in your organization, and really, hey, look to see who is going to be the head coach of the future, because that's something where that decision is going to really dictate the next 4 years. You're not like a Raiders that can cycle through head coaches. So I'm a firm believer that the head coach and the way that the organization approaches that signals how that they want to go about their future. So my next steps for the Saints are, I would look to be kind of sellers at the deadline, try to give some guys away, trade away Chase Young. Chris Olave's out for a long time. So I'd be looking to trade some of those guys away, try to win some of these games. And this offseason, who's going to be your head coach? And is there a guy in the draft that you want to be your quarterback of the future? And that's where you start. So,
well, you said a lot there.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I disagree with some of the stuff you said, though. Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't really disagree with you all. Well, that's not true. I disagree with you a good amount, but I would just say this. I disagree that Saints fans should be happy.
Really?
Yeah. Where do you go from here? You're in cap hell.
Yep.
So whoever you quote unquote want to bring in as a head coach is already going to be hampered by aging roster and a situation in which you can't go out there and acquire the talent that you want to get because of this cap situation the roster is in. I don't think they should be happy, because Dennis Allen was sold to this fan base as the replacement, or the person, the next up, if you will, by their beloved head coach that they had before, which was Sean Payton. I don't think the Saints fans should be happy, because their beloved coach Sean Payton said that he was walking away from the game, and he returns a year after being in the broadcast, being on TV, to go coach the Denver Broncos, and then absolutely just dog walked you guys when you guys faced them the other day. I don't think that you should be happy, because what does the future look like?
Yep.
Who realistically is coming into this job wanting to take over the Saints and looking at it like, yes, I have an aging roster. Yes. What changes can I make? I can't, because we're in cap hell. Yes. What seriously game-changing coach are the Saints fans getting in there that is going to help reshape the culture? That's the biggest thing for me. So I don't feel that they should have anything to be happy about. If I was a Saints fan, I'd be pissed. When they hired Dennis Allen, and I hate to run laps, but when they hired Dennis Allen, I said, hey, I don't like this move, because I remember when he was the coach of the Raiders, and it was very much of the same. It was very much of the same. This isn't a situation that necessarily is shocking to me. Yep. It's more so disappointing, because I don't think people understand this is going to be a long process for the Saints.
Mhm.
We're talking about maybe one, maybe two coaches you might have to recycle through, because whoever comes in and takes over this team, understand this team is getting gutted. This team is getting gutted. Some franchise cornerstone pieces that you love on this team will not be here probably by tomorrow at 4 p.m.
Yep.
We're talking about people like Cam Jordan. We're talking about people like Marshawn Lattimore. We're talking about people like, when he gets healthy, Ryan Ramchick, the right tackle. We're talking about Derek Carr not being here long term. You obviously have Chris Olave. All right. He's here. What's the future hold for Alvin Kamara?
Mhm.
Right? Like these are real conversations we should be having. But by no means, Saints fans, do I look at them and I say, hey, you know what? You should be happy with the situation that you have right now.
Well,
you shouldn't. You shouldn't be. It's an unfortunate situation. It is.
yes.
I think everybody expected more from Dennis Allen in that building, at least. I think everybody thought that maybe he'd be able to continue the success that they've had.
Mhm.
Nobody's coming into a situation unless they're already in the building on staff, like a Kubiak, who are looking at the situation and are saying, hey, you know what? I can grow with this team. What are your thoughts?
No, yeah, and I'm not saying that they should be happy, but this is the right move. So at this point, this is the right move, in my opinion.
Well, let me finish. Let me finish on that. I disagree.
You think they should have kept Dennis Allen the rest of the year?
You're 2-7.
Yeah.
All right. What is to be gained by firing that guy right now? You're not going to make a playoff push. The lows of the lows just happen. I understand if you're firing him to boost morale, sure.
Mhm.
I'm not really the biggest firing coaches in season guy. I'm really not that, because I think that signifies, as an organization, you don't know what you're doing. I think every coach, unless you just do something egregious, deserves the right to end the season.
Okay.
Unless you're like, oh, you haven't won a game. Unless you're like, oh, and whatever, you haven't won a game. If you have ones on the board, I think you have deserved to start to finish out the season at the very least, because you're going to make the decision regardless.
Yeah.
You're going to make the decision regardless, but then you get to know how the team fights. You get to know who wants it. You get to know who wants, and I get it. The standard is high. Maybe this gives you a jump on the head coaching search. I get that. To me, there's a lot of weeks left in the season. If you're going to fire a guy, if you don't want to wait to the end of the season, at least fire him with like 2 weeks left in the season. Don't fire him when there's like, how many more games left to be played, guys?
Yeah, about 9, 8.
Like I don't know. I'm just not a fan of that. There's nothing to really gain from that personally. That's my thoughts.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think that's where I disagree. And like, I just think that when there's such an outcry, and I'm with you, I think the part that I'm struggling with, right, is what is their true pathway forward with these guys? I think that boosting morale, I think, is huge. And I just think that Dennis Allen isn't a part of the plan of the future. And I think that when there's such an outcry, and this is where it's the organization's fault, right?
Well, one thing I want to say before you continue, how many coaches that get interim plays, and this is the thing that I hate.
Yeah.
Play coaches that get the interim tag, and it's like you're sold, hey, can you be this interim head coach the remainder of the season? It's a lose-lose. The reason why is because if you do bad, well, people are going to say this guy's not a good head coach. Well, no, he's just coming into a shitty situation as an interim coach. If you do good, how many coaches actually get the interim title removed outside of Antonio Pierce that really get a chance to shape the culture they want and get a chance to genuinely be the head coach of the team moving forward? That's the issue that I have with that. I could see if it's like there's a huge I could see if there's a bunch of coaches that essentially have went from the interim coach to head coach, but that doesn't happen. You're a placeholder until the end of the season, and then guess what? You get canned again. They might say to you, hey, would you want to remain on staff? No, you're not going to remain on staff, because I did a good job. If I did do a good job, and you're bringing in a guy that's essentially going to be the head coach, and I'm supposed to be okay with that when you didn't even really give me a fair shake. I think that these evaluations that they do of these interim coaches is a complete sham.
Yeah.
So that's just my thought process. I think I'm more so disagreeing with the notion, because it's like, what are you trying to get across? You're 2-7.
Yeah.
The team's not doing bad. Whoever's the interim coach is going to come in and take over a shitty situation. You're not going to truly evaluate them, because you already have your eyes on somebody else as a coach. And I just think it's an unfair situation for all parties, personally.
Yeah, I would agree. And that's where it's like, it is totally an unfair situation. I think that's where the organization really screwed up. And that's where I think is a fundamental flaw in certain organizations. So where I believe the GM, the owner, needs to be on the same page as the head coach, no matter what. And I feel like this wasn't the case,
Mhm.
right? And I do think I think it's a positive, and the reason why, like I said, if there's such an outcry from the fans, from the players, you lost 7 straight games. How often does that happen, right? 7 straight games, in my opinion, can call for somebody's job, especially somebody like Dennis Allen. So I'm with you. I think that the whole interim thing is a sham, and I think that the next, I believe somebody said it was their new or their special teams coach is going to be the interim coach. He's likely not going to be their head coach. He's likely with the organization just saying, hey, you're a placeholder for now. But if I'm the Saints, this is the step in the right direction, but it's going to take a while. Malik, they have the 32nd most cap space next year. They are the worst team when it comes to cap. You're paying Derek Carr a huge contract, Cam Jordan,
Derek,
Derek. I was going to say Derek contract, and that this is where the process starts. So start it now. Dennis Allen is gone. You need to be sellers at this trade deadline. You have to be. So Cam Jordan, I'd be looking. He's got to be gone. Lattimore's got to be gone. Chase Young's got to be gone. You have to slowly start this process. And like you said, it's going to be a long process. I would hope that the next guy that they hire, Malik, they hire him with the mindset, hey, look at what the New England Patriots are doing. I think they're doing a phenomenal job right now. So far with at least Gerard Mayo, he had some rough patches. But hey, understanding this is going to be a 3 to 5 year process. Whoever you hire next is going to have a tough year next year. So that would be my hope for this organization, that they hire somebody with the grace that, hey, you're coming into it. It's our fault that we're in the situation. We're just asking you to develop the quarterback, and we're asking you to just start to build this culture. So I think that this is a positive move for them. But the next step, this would be canceled out if they're not sellers at the trade deadline. So they've got a lot of work to do to get back even into contention.
It's definitely a lot of work to do, and I think it's a situation in which you've kind of handicapped yourself. We have to see how the cookie crumbles. Garrett Jellison says Daniel's guy, Derek Carr, 100%.
That was my guy, man.
Yeah,
I like him.
I think at this point you're going to just start seeing this organization sell players for a lot cheaper, because now when you fire a head coach, everybody's expecting a fire sale. Yeah. So Sean Brennan, I could see the Chiefs getting Marshawn Lattimore for cheap. I know they did place a phone call regarding him. I could see them getting him for a good price that everybody's gonna be pinching themselves like, how the hell did the rich get richer? That's a situation I could see happening. I think that if you're a team that likes some of the assets that the Saints have, you 100% should be placing phone calls. Place a phone call for Alvin Kamara. See what that can get you. All right. But I think this is a team that's gonna be looking to get anything and everything to start to get some of these contracts off the books. Like a Chase Young, who's obviously only on a 1-year deal. I'd like to see the Bengals involved in those conversations personally, because I think there's some players on the Saints that could help. Westis says Cam Jordan would be a movie. I think it would make sense for the Bengals to place a phone call and try to see what they can get from some of those. And listen, the Bengals should be looking at it this way. The Saints should be your best friends today.
Yes.
The Saints and the Giants, if you want Azeez Ojulari, should be your best friends today. If you guys could do us a favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you guys never miss when we go live or upload content from the TWSN studios. Want to keep the conversation rolling. This is just our headlines we're going to go over. And then we're going to get more back to the NFL talk. But I don't know if you guys got a chance to see the Drake DeMar DeRozan thing that kind of took place this past weekend. Did you see that, Daniel?
No,
it was crazy, man. I mean, you talk about Drake goes to the Raptors game where DeMar DeRozan is playing Vince Carter's ring ceremony night. It was supposed to be a beautiful moment. And all you see is Drake just staring down DeMar DeRozan. He has a couple of choice words for him. And he was there with I believe his manager or his head of security, Chubbs. And they're just staring down DeMar DeRozan. Jimmy, roll the clip.
DeRozan banner up, I'll go up there and pull it down myself. That's the answer to your question.
What's your reaction to that?
Well, he gonna have a long way to climb to take it down. So tell him good luck.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, that whole situation was very interesting. Danny, what are your thoughts?
I thought it was funny, man. I think it's hilarious just looking at this whole situation between Drake, Kendrick, DeMar DeRozan. I think that there are two sides to this. The one side that DeMar DeRozan was a huge proponent of Drake before. DeMar DeRozan was, on podcasts saying after his trade from the Toronto Raptors, saying Drake was the guy that was there for him, saying Drake was my boy, Drake was my guy, and Drake was there for me. And he was somebody where DeMar DeRozan literally said he's got my loyalty to the end. And it went through a situation where the whole beef between Kendrick and Drake, DeMar went with his hometown Compton and he went to his guy Kendrick Lamar. So I think I do see Drake's side in this. I do see why Drake is upset. I do see why Drake is pissed off. DeMar DeRozan, I think, is totally in the wrong for this situation. It may sound kind of petty, right? Saying, oh, well, he picked one guy over the other. That's exactly what he did. He did appear in a music video for the other side that his boy was going up against. So just ask yourself the question, right? If one of your guys, somebody that, you were close with, went and, hung out and did a full video and did a huge favor for somebody else that you clearly hate, you would feel some type of way. So I totally see what Drake is saying. I just thought it was so funny, his comments saying, hey, like if they put up DeRozan banner, I'm gonna pull that down. I'm with Drake. I'm on Team Drake for the Drake versus DeMar thing. Really? To be honest,
what about versus Kendrick?
Versus Kendrick.
Yeah, you Team Drake too.
I'm Team Drake, but I can also acknowledge that he did the outside noise, and the public perception is that Drake lost the beef. And
I don't care about public perception. Everybody kind of goes with whatever the popular opinion is. I don't think he lost the beef. I think that's very evident on how everything's been handled. But I think the biggest thing for me is just when you look at it, I disagree with the way Drake kind of handled that situation.
Yes.
He's in a professional setting and you kind of go off there and, we didn't even really play the full clip of some of the things he was saying on camera on the mic. Oh, we did. Okay. Mm-hmm. Some of the stuff that was said when Drake was at the announcer's desk and just the way he was just disrespected, calling him a goof and all this kind of stuff like that. I think that was kind of like kind of insane. And I just think that as an ambassador for an NBA team, you have to be bigger than that. Regardless of the situation, it was a beef. It happened. Time to move on. I just thought it was very, very interesting. Something I wanted to touch on. Something I want to talk about. Obviously, you guys follow me. Drake is one of my favorite artists, if you will. But I just thought that it was very disappointing.
Yeah, and just I'm with you. And I think the part that's frustrating for me with that whole situation is like, if you're gonna say something, it's like, what are you hoping to gain? Like when he's mouthing the words as DeMar's walking off, like, are you trying to fight the guy? Like, are you trying to?
Yeah, like, I mean, I think DeMar did what he had to do, being a consummate professional, of course, because it's your job at the end of the day, right? Yeah. It's your job. The way you kind of handle things is reflective upon you. It was definitely a situation in which Drake and Chubbs were trying to antagonize him, front row seat, staring him down. It was definitely a situation in which he was definitely trying to get under his skin to a degree. But I will say DeMar DeRozan isn't without fault either. Mm-hmm. You were cool with Drake. You are cool with Drake. You're cool with Kendrick Lamar. I think this should be just a notice to athletes. Probably stay out of rappers' beef. Mm-hmm. It's not a place to be. It's not necessary, especially because they have to sort of live the life that they portray, especially in the media or amongst their career. Of course, and it's going to be interesting throughout the whole way through. So we'll see what happens. Do us a favor, give this video a like. Give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or upload content. Let us know what you guys thought of the whole Drake, DeMar DeRozan interaction. We appreciate that as well. I just thought it was something interesting, just definitely that we wanted to touch on and talk about, because it's not every day you see a rapper trying to antagonize an NBA player in an aggressive manner, if you will. Let's talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jacksonville Jaguars are now 2-7. Much like the New Orleans Saints. And the question now is Dougie P next to go? Is Doug Pederson next up to, is Dougie P next to be moved on from the Jacksonville Jaguars? I'm very curious what your thoughts are.
I think so. And I think that this is a situation, though, I don't think that they'll do this midseason, nor do I think that they should. At this point, I think that Doug Pederson has had too much of a say in the pathway that this organization has gone. I think Doug has, like I said, he brought in a lot of his guys, defense coordinator, offense coordinator, brought in some, assistants. And this is a situation where I truly believe, like, for this one, what is there to gain by firing Doug Peterson now, right? This is a team that's looking to contend. This is a team that, respectfully, they don't have to rebuild. They went out and they signed guys in free agency, right? You went out, you got Eric Armstead, you got a lot of these dudes in free agency. You went out and you drafted a top tier wide receiver in Brian Thomas Jr. You went out and you got a guy in Gabe Davis. You gave him the bag. So this is something you have to try and let Doug Peterson correct. But do I think that he is the guy? I don't know. I think they've got a lot of issues. I think there is a lot of blame being pointed around, right? Doug Peterson seems to be blaming Trevor Lawrence at times. Trevor Lawrence in the offense says, hey, at times, we're just taking it game by game. Doug Peterson after the game said, I don't really focus on our team identity. That's something that changes week to week. I don't want to pinpoint who we are. And I think that's where the Jaguars are, right? They have two wins on the season. They just lost a very close game that they should have won against the Philadelphia Eagles. All Eagles fans and everybody who was watching the game knew that Nick Sirianni was the biggest idiot at times in that game. He almost gave that game away. So the Jaguars, I think, have some serious questions to ask. There is no world where they're going to move off of Trevor Lawrence now, right? For whatever I want to say, for whatever I've seen, I think Trevor Lawrence made some serious mistakes in that game. I don't think Trevor Lawrence is playing up to par. I don't think that Trevor Lawrence is a superstar quarterback right now, but he's the guy you got. What is your alternative? And I think that's the question that all organizations should ask themselves. So yes, I think that right now, it depends on how they finish off the season, but Malik, they got 2 wins right now. And it's clear the Trevor Lawrence, Doug Peterson duo is not working out right now. So I would give them some time, try to let them figure it out. But who's going to be the first guy to go? We talked about this before. It should be offense coordinator Press Taylor. That should be the first guy to go when we're discussing Trevor, Doug Peterson, or your offense coordinator. It should be Press Taylor. But the issue that I have, and you hope that Doug Peterson would try to change his ways, is that's the reason why he left Philly. It was because he didn't want to get rid of Press Taylor. It's because he was loyal to him. So if you're loyal to him, if you're going to stand by him, you also have to stand by him in times of, where you're getting harped on. And this is one of the times. So I think it's one of two things. I think that Press Taylor, that would be a firing. I wouldn't be too shocked, and I wouldn't be upset as a Jaguars fan. I don't think that really does a whole lot negative to your team. So I think Doug Peterson should have a longer leash the rest of this season, but Press Taylor needs to be the first guy to go because, quite frankly, Malik, this team is too talented to be 2-7. They're too talented to be in this position. They have too much going for them, and they're in these close games, and they continuously just find a way to lose these games. You go look at the week before, the offense was humming, and it was their defense that was the reason why they lost. This week, it was Trevor Lawrence throwing an interception. It was you not being able to run the ball efficiently. So I think that this team shouldn't be sellers at the trade deadline. I see a lot of people saying, oh, they should just sell off. No, this is a team, in my opinion, that they're ready to go now. They just need to establish a culture, and I don't think that culture is there. So Doug Peterson is on the hot seat 1,000%, but I think that he does have a longer leash, and I think that this is going to head into this upcoming offseason unless if they continue to shit the bed the rest of the season. So
yeah, I definitely think it's probably time to move on from Doug Peterson if you've deemed the situation unfixable to a degree. I think the excitement of having a new shiny quarterback and a guy like Trevor Lawrence is kind of wearing off at this point. I think it's one of those things where it's like you're waiting to see it kind of all come to fruition, and it hasn't been that so far.
Yeah.
I just don't know. I don't know who's coming in there. It's similar to the Saints. I don't know who you're getting to come in there to instill belief into that locker room, right? I think that's the biggest thing for me. It's like, okay, where do you go from here? Because Doug Peterson was brought in here because he was deemed to be a Super Bowl winning coach, a guy that had done it before, had been around the block. Going from Urban Meyer, to Doug Peterson is a big jump. Where so you had thought, and you're sort of left pondering still. You're still left wondering. I know I certainly thought that the Jaguars are going to take a step or two.
They should.
And they just haven't. They just haven't. So it's one of those things where obviously you can't control your receivers getting hurt. Can't control any of that. But what you can control is what you can control. And right now the Jaguars are in a situation in which things are just looking very bleak for them. And it sucks because I thought the Jaguars were going to be players in the AFC for a while.
Yes.
I thought the Jaguars were going to be players for a while in the AFC, and they just kind of just shat the bed a little bit. I don't know. If you guys do us a favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications. Let's talk about Luke Getsky. Luke Getsky, the Raiders offensive coordinator, was fired yesterday. Luke Getsky came from the Chicago Bears. He was the person who was leading the charge for Justin Fields when he was the quarterback there. And let me ask you guys, I guess this asks for a bigger, this is a bigger question to ask. Does this signal that Antonio Pierce is worried about his job security? Do you think that this means Antonio Pierce is almost on the outs in the Raiders? Because you don't fire a coordinator unless you feel the pressure about your job.
Mm-hmm.
All right. No one fires a coordinator thinking that, hey, things are going to be fine. You know, this to me, this signals that Antonio Pierce is a little uncomfortable where his job standing is. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, he should be. He should be. But and it also goes the initial thing. This Raiders organization is being run terribly right now. It's just being run poorly. And Luke Getsky, and this is maybe it's just hindsight is 2020. Of course, we can say that, but he just wasn't a good hire this offseason. I never saw it. Right? I saw somebody where he had consistent issues with the Chicago Bears, and it wasn't always your quarterback. And that's the issue, I think, in the NFL. A lot of it is coaching. You go look at any situation, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, these quarterbacks can play. Justin Fields can play. You just have to put them in the right position. So for the Chicago Bears to go out and fire Luke Getsky, and then for you to, the Raiders to say, hey, I'm going to go hire Luke Getsky as my offensive coordinator. I just never understood it. I never saw it. I didn't see the connection there. And I just didn't understand, especially if you had guys at your quarterback position who, respectfully, they weren't upgrades over Justin Fields. They're about the same tier, Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell. So I never understood the hire in the first place. And for Antonio Pierce to be outing Luke Getsky, I think that it does signal that he feels like his job might be on the line, that he feels that his job, and rightfully so, because it should be, with a team like the Las Vegas Raiders, with an organization with Mark Davis and what that they're doing and how they run the organization, head coach in, head coach out, Gruden in, McDaniels in, now you got interim head coach Antonio Pierce. He shouldn't feel like his job is safe, and it's just because of the way the organization is being run. So I think that this Raiders team, especially with all the rumors of Tom Brady, with Deion Sanders, with Shedeur Sanders, I think that Antonio Pierce knows that he's got to get the shit corrected now. And that's the hard part, because I don't know if this team can make a push. This team is fine. They're okay, but Minshew is whatever. Aiden O'Connell's whatever. You just don't have the dudes on your team right now to go out there and make a push. And that's my concern with this team, and that's my concern for Antonio Pierce, is that he wouldn't be given a true shot. I don't think that if this season, if they fire him, Malik, I don't think that that's a true shot. Saying, hey, we gave you a true shot to be the head coach of this team. It didn't work out. So that's where I think that my issues with this Raiders team and this Raiders organization fundamentally are. So, yes, I do think that this totally signals that Antonio Pierce's job is on the line. And I think that the Raiders are okay with that. I think the Raiders are saying, hey, because I just, once again, how can you go hire a dude and fire him 9 weeks into the season? That's not on Luke Getsky, in my opinion. This isn't. This is on the organization. That's not on Antonio Pierce.
Yeah.
This is on the organization. How can you look at yourself and say, hey, we sat down with these offense coordinators. We sat down and went through an entire interview process, and the dude that we selected 9 weeks into the season, he's gone. That's on the organization. That is not on Luke Getsky. Because if he was that bad of a coach, if he was that bad of an offensive coordinator, why the hell did you hire him? And that's the part I just don't understand. He showed me nothing different, Malik, in this stint with the Raiders that he did with the Chicago Bears. It was the same shit. It was calling 2 screens at a time. It was not having a real thought process to what does your offense look like. It was not having a true rushing attack. That was the thing that worked well for the Raiders last year, getting Zamir White involved. He had a great end of the season last year. And what happened this year? These dudes are running for 2.5 yards a carry. So this is on the organization. I really hope that they get this right. And they have a shot this offseason to really go and try to turn this around, go out, try to get your franchise quarterback. And that gives you a leeway for at least a couple more years to see, hey, maybe we got a quarterback that can instill some hope in this franchise, that can kind of change the locker room, change how our offense is run. But this just shows me that this organization right now, they're an incompetent organization because I just can't wrap my head around 9 weeks into the season, firing a dude that you just went through an interview process for. This is a very bad look for the Raiders, and they've got to do some stuff to really correct this. Not necessarily this season, but this offseason is going to be a huge telltale of, hey, is this team going to be dog water for the next
So here's something interesting. Apparently, they didn't just fire Luke Getsky. Luke Getsky is the one that's making rounds. They fired Luke Getsky, their offensive line coach, James Craig, and their quarterbacks coach.
Really?
They fired them all. To me, that's a little bit that's overkill. You don't make all those changes. That's basically you signifying that all of our issues are majority on our offensive side of the ball. That's scapegoat behavior.
Yep.
That's scapegoat behavior. That loss to the Bengals couldn't be the one that just like, hey, damn, we need to make fully changes. Who else are you gonna bring in right at this point of the season and let them do the job effectively? This is what I'm trying to say. A lot of these coaches will make moves to save their own ass. And to me, that signifies poor leadership more than not.
Mm-hmm.
What are you firing a quarterback's coach for? What are you firing an offensive lines coach for? Like, yeah, things were bad, but it also didn't help that the offensive line was beat up. It didn't help that the offensive line was beat up.
It didn't help that the quarterback was beat up.
The quarterback was beat up, and you went to Desmond Ritter at one point.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just think that's a very drastic move from Antonio Pierce, and I think that these are the type of things that leadership is based upon. Now, who's going to want to take over those jobs and not think that he won't throw them under the bus?
Yeah.
To me, that's poor leadership.
Yeah.
That's poor leadership over and over and over again. Mm-hmm. And Sean, we if you look at the top of the show, we actually discussed Dennis Allen's firing. That we discussed that for the first 60 minutes of the show, where we gave our thoughts on this situation. But yeah, it's unfortunate. Today it definitely has been a bloodbath, Sean, from coaches being fired and let go today. If you guys could do us a favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications. Hey, let's talk about Dallas. Dallas Cowboys are now, what are they, 3-5?
3-5. Yeah.
They're 3-5. Things are starting to look down in Dallas. I don't feel like Mike McCarthy is long for the job. I felt like when Jerry Jones went out there and hired him, he thought, hey, I'm getting a former Super Bowl winning coach. I'm getting a guy that's been a thorn in our side in the NFC for years. And I'm getting a guy that's overall going to fit like a glove into my system, into my game plan. What are your thoughts on the Dallas Cowboys being 3-5? Where do they go from here? There was an interesting clip that I'll probably save for tomorrow's show that I want to play, actually. But I'm curious, what are your thoughts on Dak Prescott and the Cowboys moving forward?
I think that this team is and I like using this word, they're a shit show, Malik. That's what they are. And this is a team where they had a high hopes. Go look at 2 years ago, man. They were in the playoffs. This team was consistently in the playoffs. But you pigeonhole yourself by signing these dudes like a Dak Prescott to a major contract. You pigeonhole yourself by not adding to your offensive line. You pigeonhole yourself by losing your defense coordinator, then losing your offense coordinator. That's how you pigeonhole yourself. So for a guy like Jerry Jones, I think that this is how he's running his organization. And my concern is he says, hey, we're not giving up on the season, nor should you, right? You're 9 weeks in the season. You need to instill some hope. But to say that you're going to be buyers at the trade deadline, to say that, we've got some moves in store that are really, it's going to fix our team. Malik, what the hell is going to fix your team? Your team is 3-5. Your team is getting beat up week after week. And it's not just from injuries. Obviously, Mike Parsons isn't there. But you got dog walked by the Lions at home. You got dog walked multiple times. This game against the Falcons should have been your game. You were in this game. And that's where I think my mind goes to, is what's going to change this team. And I don't know if Mike McCarthy's the guy for this job, but he's also a guy that hasn't necessarily done a terrible job. I think that Mike McCarthy, albeit I am of the belief that you may need to bring somebody in, I think that he would be a scapegoat. And the reason why I say that is I see the way that these dudes, the players, interact with Mike McCarthy. They like Mike. They do. They stood on the table for Mike McCarthy this offseason. They said, hey, on social media, they said, while he was getting battered and bruised on social media, these dudes stood behind him. So I don't know if it's Mike McCarthy being the issue. I think that it truly is a Jerry Jones thing. I truly think it's a Dallas thing. It's a weird phenomenon, but they just can't get over the hump. And that's where I think that they're okay with these changes, the Dan Quinns, like I said, the losing Kellen Moore. And that's where my mind goes to, saying, hey, this offseason, what can you do to just add more talent to the team? Because you got a Micah Parsons, and their defense was truly reliant last year on a Parsons, was truly reliant on the turnovers. Turnovers are a thing in the NFL. You can't be reliant on that. You can't. Year over year, that changes every single year. Statistically, it is the most, year over year biggest change in the NFL. Turnovers are. So I think that this team, they really have to. They bought into Dak Prescott. And if you're not going to move off of him because of this contract, you just have to surround him with the right talent. And that's something I don't think that they did, right? Rico Dowdle, I was a huge fan of him coming out of college.
Mhm.
Is he your running back one? No. Like
They got
Zeke Elliott.
Elliott staying home for being told that he would be demoted or he wouldn't be active, and then he threw a temper tantrum, and then he was told that he wouldn't travel with the team. It's just a crap show all around.
It is. And that's the part that, where did they go from here, man? They're in a bad spot. They are. But at the same time, at least you still have some of your foundational pieces. Go sign Micah Parsons to a big deal. You got Dak Prescott, who's a fine quarterback. You got CeeDee Lamb. It really is this offseason. This is your window, and you do kind of have to treat this like a thing of, hey, maybe you give up some of your later draft picks. Maybe you do build for right now. Maybe you do take the Rams approach and kind of go all in on this core, because it would be a disservice for your team to just look into the future, say, hey, well, we'll figure that out in the future. No, I think that you shouldn't be buyers at this trade deadline. Maybe go get a piece like an edge rusher or something. But this offseason is going to be a big offseason the way, hey, it's talent acquisition, man. You got to go. Give me somebody else opposite of CeeDee Lamb. Give me a good running back. Go build the offensive line. Continue to build them, because they are getting older. They're right now in the bottom half of offensive lines in the NFL. So they're just, man, they're in a tough spot. And the way that this offense ran with Dak Prescott, the way that they're good is by having a dominant defense, and they don't have that this year, Malik. So I wouldn't fire Mike McCarthy.
You wouldn't?
I wouldn't right now. I wouldn't. And I think this is an organizational issue. So see how the rest of the season goes. If they really go on a downturn, and if they are buyers and they continue to be bad, then at that point you can say, hey, Mike McCarthy could be gone.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't personally be buyers in this trade deadline.
I don't know what's going on today in the world of coaching, but another bit of news. Nothing firing related, but Shams Charania just reported San Antonio Spurs coach Greg Popovich suffered a health issue before Saturday's game. Assistant coach Mitch Johnson is expected to be the interim head coach for an indefinite period of time.
Damn.
Yeah.
He's old, but you just hope, man.
Yeah. I mean, what's going on? I mean, it's just been a crazy day as far as coaches, right? I mean, that's crazy. I'm sure we'll have more to touch on that as more news becomes available on tomorrow's show. But yeah, I don't know. That's something I definitely wanted to make mention of. Hopefully that Pop is taking care of his health first. He's an older dude at this point in time. And truly a national treasure for the NBA. Do us a favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or upload content. Sean Brennan says, Daniel out here trying to save everyone's job. LOL.
Real quick, like our guy Ryan, he was saying like Cowboys shouldn't. I'm with you. I'm saying Cowboys should not be buyers. I think that the Cowboys this season pretty much is a lost season for them at this point. You're 3-5, so yeah, I'm with you. I don't think that we're disagreeing. They should not be buyers, and that's where I'm not trying to save.
You think they shouldn't be buyers? Maybe
I don't think so.
3-5 is not over.
It ain't over, but I think that they do have fundamental issues. Like, what are you going to go out and buy that's going to really change your season? Maybe they go out and trade for a wide receiver, sure, and somebody that can fit into your plans in the future. So maybe that's a thing. Like, I'm trying to think. Maybe you go get like an Adam Thielen type, like who maybe.
I mean, but that's not a future move. That's a dude that's
that is for now. So like. Yeah, I don't necessarily know what you do right now that can really change the season around.
Let's just call it what it is. I mean, I feel like we're tiptoeing around. I feel like you're tiptoeing around. I feel like everybody's tiptoeing around it. They made a mistake signing Dak Prescott long term without letting the season play out, and they should have had him and Mike McCarthy basically play on a prove it year. That's what it should have been. And they rushed it, and they made Dak Prescott the highest paid, and now they're probably looking at it like, damn, we put our foot in our mouths. I mean, for goddamn sake, she got Micah Parsons and Trayvon Diggs having podcasts. I think it was Micah Parsons and Trayvon Diggs having podcasts and leaving their
Yes.
quarterback out of the top 10 conversation. So that should tell you everything that you need to know. You know, I don't think I think that it's bad. I think things are poor in Dallas right now, and I think heads are going to roll at the end of the season. I think Mike McCarthy's head is going to roll. There's no way Mike McCarthy survives the season.
And that's my issue with this. I do think Dak Prescott is a fine quarterback. He is. Is he elite? No. Should he have gotten that contract? No, I'm with you. And I think that's where the problem lies. Is you made a great point. This year should have been a prove-it year. Why did you tie yourself to Dak Prescott? Why did you tie yourself to a guy that hasn't shown you playoff success? And that's the issue. You tied yourself to him, so now it puts you in a bind. You've got to get rid of Mike McCarthy if this doesn't go well, because what else are you going to do? What's your other option? So I'm with you, and this is where my issue with this is if they fire Mike McCarthy, the dude that isn't going to get the blame is Jerry Jones, and he should be. This is a fundamental issue with their team. They shouldn't have signed Dak Prescott, and you put yourself in this position to where you said, hey, you are going to be contenders now, and you're 3-5. So what's the next move? You're sticking with Dak Prescott. You have to, right? So I think this organization, they just messed up big time. So
yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you. The fundamental issues that they have in the organization. Jerry Jones needs to look at himself in the mirror at the end of the year and say, hey, I need to step down, let somebody else maybe effectively run this organization. What does that even look like? Is it even possible? Is Jerry Jones even capable of stepping down and letting someone else lead while he stands by? I don't believe he is, but we got to keep the conversation rolling. Hey, will the Bengals make a trade? It is the deadline. Hey, Duke Tobin, you didn't answer my call out, man. I said Monday morning, address the media ahead of the trade deadline. Let them know why you will be active or you won't be active at the trade deadline, or why you like the players that you have in the building. Bengals didn't answer my call, but there were reports that came out from Diana Rossini that said, hey, the Bengals have been poking around the defensive end market, the cornerback market in Jeremy, I forgot his last name. Fowler said that the Bengals have been poking around the running back spot. So there's 3 positions the Bengals apparently have been looking at. I'm sure Chase Brown's performance yesterday probably staved off any major acquisitions that they might have been looking at it from the running back standpoint. But it's not just enough to make a phone call. You got to be active. You got to get a deal done. It ain't enough to say that, hey, you know what? We're involved in calls. It's good to know that the phone calls are working. The phone is working at Paycor Stadium. It's good to know that those conversations are being had. Pass rush help is something that they need to look upon. Cornerback help is something that they need to look upon. It's just a matter of how much better are you looking to get? There's depth and then there's difference makers. I got to imagine if you're making a trade, you're making a trade for a player that would play a significant amount, that would hopefully make an impact. Daniel, what say you?
Yeah, I think that this team, it was fascinating. I didn't know that they would reach out to a running back or reach out about running backs. I think it shows that what's the state of their running back room right now. And I think that it shows that, hey, Chase Brown is good, but they do need some extra juice. And I think that my priority with this really is the edge rush position. I think that that's the one I'm really circling. Cornerback should definitely be an option. And regardless, I'm with you. I'm happy that they're at least making the phone calls. That's the first step, right? First step is to make the phone calls. And then the next step, like if we want to discuss the running backs, right? Who are we talking about, right? Are we talking about a Travis Etienne? Are we talking about a Tony Pollard? Are we talking about like what is really going to be added on an extreme element from this side for the Bengals? And I really do think it's going to come down to the edge rush position. Malik, at this point, you're a day before the trade deadline. These dudes aren't going to cost more than a 5th round pick. They're not. When you ask yourself the question about these teams who are selling these players, the Chase Youngs, the Azeez Ojularis, the Arden Keys, all these dudes, the Cam Jordans, for example, these dudes aren't going to cost more than a 5th. At most, maybe a 4th. But think about it from the other team's perspective. They're trying to unload a contract, and they're trying to unload a dude who likely isn't under contract after the season. And if you're looking at your season already lost, you got 6 to 8 weeks of them. And what good is that doing? So, Malik, a 5th round pick, I'm a huge fan of. Get rid of it. Get rid of it. So I think we want to talk about names. Obviously, Azeez is the guy. I'd be really curious. And I think the Saints situation is definitely the one I would be looking to at least monitor, because they're the one. There is no doubt on anybody's mind. They've got to be sellers.
Well, apparently, this is from Tom Pelissero. He says, amidst the Saints moving off of Dennis Allen, they are not believed to be in a full fire sale mode. He said Marshawn Lattimore could still get moved, but do not expect an all-out sell of players. I have a hard time seeing them move franchise cornerstones. I don't believe they'll move Cam Jordan. Cam Jordan
Yeah.
just means too much to the organization. I think Chase Young could be potentially moved because he's only on a 1-year deal, and the performance hasn't been what you expected. Marshawn Lattimore obviously is a guy that the Chiefs and a couple of other teams have poked around about. But other than that, who else would you actually see them move? Alvin Kamara is a guy, another franchise cornerstone piece. Nobody's calling about Derek Carr. Nobody's calling about Derek Carr. Who else would you do you think that they could potentially move in? I think that's going to be up to the Saints, right? If they're looking to move any players. But as far as the Bengals being active at the trade deadline, it's something that needs to happen. If they're looking to right the ship and, get some juice in this locker room before the Ravens game, not even saying that this player will play Thursday night, although you hope they would, but maybe they don't even have a significant impact. Maybe they just have a couple of packages which they're involved with. Hey, you need somebody in here to help out. And the time to make the decision is now, today. Not tomorrow, today. You need to make that decision today. Phone calls need to be hammered out today to make sure you get someone in this building right now that can help rectify this. I personally, listen, if we're dreaming big, obviously Azeez Ojulari is a player that I want the Bengals to go after. I've been on record saying that. I would love to see the Bengals try to make a phone call for J.C. Horn. J.C. Horn is a player that I think is a difference maker. He's a true number one cornerback in football. I like some of the moves the Bengals could potentially make. Who are some other players that you think that you'd like to see the Bengals add realistically, Daniel?
Yeah, realistically, I think that's a tough thing. I think that these really are the big names that we are talking about. I think are the realistic names, and I'm with you. I think the Saints, the real guy that you'd be looking at, you'd hope that maybe it's a Cam Jordan, but I really think it's a Chase Young, who's fine. He's not somebody who's like elite. He's not somebody who's super special, but he's fine. I really think it's Azeez or Arden Key. Those are the two guys that I'm looking at, in my opinion, for the Bengals. What can they really add? I mean, you can even go look at some of these other teams, right? The Philadelphia Eagles, they're a team that has a ton of talent at edge rusher position. Somebody, like I said, I don't know necessarily what his contract is. I just know that he didn't play a whole lot this past week. Bryce Huff is a guy for the Eagles. Like I said, I've got to see what the room really looks like, but I know for a fact he didn't play a lot this past week, and he's somebody who is extremely talented, and they've got a plethora of talent on their defensive line. So he's somebody I could be looking at. But I just be really looking at these teams that are really sellers. Obviously, you got the Cleveland Browns. I don't know what the likelihood of an in-division trade is. Obviously, Zadarius Smith is the name that's kind of been floated out there. He's a little bit older, but the Browns are a team. Like, what are they really gaining out of Zadarius Smith this season? They know that their season is kind of lost. They only got 2 wins on the year. So he's a name. Obviously, we talked about the Panthers. You got J.C. Horn. Jadeveon Clowney's obviously the name that a lot of other people are discussing. He's a little bit older, and he's kind of the similar boat of, hey, you know what you're going to get. A guy that can get pressures, a guy that will probably get pressures, but he just never really closes the deal. But is he a guy that provides juice on your pass rush? I think he could. So these are kind of the names that I think are likely. I'm looking at some of like these running backs. I don't necessarily know who.
Can I have a thought on a name for you?
Yeah.
Khalil Herbert.
Yeah.
Khalil Herbert's been a healthy scratch for the Chicago Bears. He is a guy that I was very high on. What do you think of him?
I like him. And I think he's a guy you could get for the low 6th-round pick.
Probably can get him for a 7th, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he's been a healthy scratch. He's been a guy that like literally they have not utilized at all. And your running back room is decimated at this point. You need someone here that could hopefully make a difference. He's 26 years old. He's young, right? I don't know.
No, I like that. I think that he's a guy that I definitely like. And there's a lot of guys that are out there that are kind of just around that, that are kind of just there. And like, that's kind of my thing with this Bengals team is, hey, I like that they're making phone calls. And I don't know if they're going to be going after a Travis Etienne, right? Because at that point, that's Travis Etienne probably go for a 4th or 5th round pick. So I'm excited to see what they end up doing. But I would definitely say, like I said, I really think it's the edge rush position. I think that if I really struggle to see how Azeez doesn't get dealt, especially he's on a final year of his contract. The Giants should be, they ain't looking to be serious players this year. This past week was kind of the final chance. Lost to the Commanders. You got Brian Burns on a major contract. You got Kayvon Thibodeau on another big contract. Where does Aziz really play into your future? And he's one. And then, like I said, the Tennessee Titans are really another team that I'm really looking at. Obviously, you got the Brian Callahan connection. And I'm trying to think of these other guys. Like, I don't know, and I really doubt that they would get rid of a Jeffrey Simmons, who's an absolute beast. You got Cheeto. They just signed at the cornerback position. I like their corners. They got L'Jarius Sneed.
I'm curious if Calais Campbell is a guy that the Miami Dolphins will move.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't have a lot of help on the defensive side of things in terms of the interior of the defensive line. That's a move that I think could be interesting. Zadarius Smith, apparently, him to the Lions just seems like it's inevitable. But we know that the Patriots have been poking around Jonathan Jones, potentially trading him.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm all ears right now, I would say. I'm all ears right now. I know people keep talking about the Chase Youngs of the world and stuff like that. But Ken, do you think a Chase Young could regain form with a team like the Bengals potentially?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Well, Chase Young, he is a pass rush specialist. He was literally and is literally a net negative in the running game. But that's what you're bringing. I'm not bringing somebody in to be a dominant run stuffer. I've got Sam Hubbard. I'm fine. Miles Murphy can do that. He's fine. But it really is, I want somebody who's I can see providing serious juice in the pass rush, and I can potentially see having a future here with the Bengals. But at the end of the day, I think that the names, it really is, give me somebody that just provides juice in the pass rush. That's what I want, right? Miles Murphy this past game looked fine. He had a couple nice pressures. But if we're talking about a team right now, you're looking to contend. You're looking to make a push to the playoffs. You're making a push to make some serious noise. You need some juice outside of Trey Hendrickson. Malik, I'm really narrowing down. I think there are some dominant defensive tackles you can look at if you want to go that route. We talked about from the Titans, same thing, Sebastian Joseph Day, or I think that's how you say his name.
Yeah.
He's the guy. The Titans, I believe, should be sellers, and this defensive line is so damn good. Jeffrey Simmons, Tavondre Sweat, they got Harold Landry. There's a reason, in my opinion, that Brian Callahan is standing on the podium for these dudes. Arden Key had a huge forced fumble this past week. Sebastian Joseph Day had a huge sack on Drake May. I believe that there's a reason why the Titans are coming out and saying these things, because they know they want to get rid of these dudes. So if you want to go defense tackle, I think there's these dudes that you can get. Sebastian Joseph Day from the Browns. What's Dalvin Tomlinson, right? These are defensive tackles. You talked about Calais Campbell. I think he's still a big dude that can provide some serious value versus having a third round pick, McKinley Jackson,
Well, McKinley's been playing fine, but
Yeah.
I get what you're saying.
he's been playing fine, but like if you want to make something and make a serious addition, I think that it really is. I'm looking at the edge rush position. In my opinion, I'm penciling Aziz or Arden Key. Those are the two guys I want.
And one guy that I want to talk about that we haven't talked about enough, Baron Browning for the Broncos, is a guy that I really like. He has that upside as a pass rusher, but also you can drop back into coverage every now and again. I've always been a fan of Baron Browning. And it'll be interesting to see what happens here. Let us know down in the comment section who you guys think. Who would y'all want the Bengals to trade for realistically? Who's a player or two that you would want the Bengals to get aggressive for and try and help this season with this playoff push, sitting at 4-5? Let us know down in the comment section. If you guys give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or upload content. So you don't miss when we go live in the TWSN studios. Hey, listen, Joel Embiid had a situation unfold this past week. We're going to try to do a little speed round out here, but Joel Embiid had a situation unfold where he pushed a journalist. And it was because in a column, his brother who passed away was mentioned and his son was mentioned. And Joel Embiid took issue with that, conciting, everything he's done for the city of Philadelphia and how he felt disrespected, essentially. I've what I've told you. I feel like the process is no longer there. I think that the situation is unfolding the way it is in Philly. And I think that he's closer to being gone for Philly than he is to sticking around long term. We have yet to see Paul George and Joel on the court together. And it feels like the season is trending very similar to what we've seen in recent years with the 76ers. Competitive, get to the playoffs, fall short.
Mhm.
And who's to blame? Well, at this point, I personally believe that the 76ers, I think I said this to you last year, I think that they're in a situation where they need to move off of Joel Embiid here shortly to be
Yes.
able to get some assets for him because his value as a big man in the league with knee problems is only going down.
Mhm.
It's only going down. What are your thoughts?
I'm a huge fan of what you said. We should definitely have that start having that conversation. That's a conversation that isn't being had right now. What does the future look like for the 76ers without Joel Embiid? Let's have that conversation. That's the conversation I want to have. Hey, what does it look like? And I believe you can get a lot of assets, right? Tyrese Maxey is a guy I'm a huge fan of. I think that he can be a 1B on a team. I think that he's a stud. He's a guy that pushes the pace. He's a guy that really can make opposing defenses life's hell. And I think that with Joel Embiid, it just seems like the writing's on the wall at this point, right? We've seen him at his peak. We've seen him as an MVP level guy go into the playoffs and kind of shit the bed for them, right? It just hasn't worked out. So I think that this Paul George move can help them. I think this Paul George move can, provide some juice. But
He's supposed to play tonight, but I mean, I think they said limited to a degree.
so Malik, I'm looking at, hey, if this offseason, if they don't make noise in the playoffs, I'm calling teams. As the 76ers organization, I see the writing could be on the wall. Joel Embiid and the 76ers fans are going at it. And if I'm Joel Embiid, respectfully, why am I going to stay? Why? Right? What else do I have to give the 76ers team? Obviously, he didn't win a championship. But if I'm Joel Embiid and this season does not go according to plan, I want to change the scenery. I want out. And maybe that's me being soft. Maybe that's me saying, hey, he shouldn't have to deal with that media. I think he should, but every player has a right to do what's best for them in their future career. If they don't make noise this upcoming season, Malik, I think he should want out. And you could get a haul. You could get multiple first-round picks. I believe you can go and trade him to a team. There's so many teams that would use him. So I think that he could get serious value, and I would be looking to trade him if they don't make noise in the playoffs.
For sure. Guys, do us a favor, give this video a like and subscribe to the channel while you're here. Hey, we want to get to our best bets for Monday Night Football. Daniel, this is the part where I'll let you take it away, my man. What are some of your favorite bets for tonight's game?
Yeah, I'll kind of make this quick. I think that there is, first off, every single NBA game team is playing today, so there's a ton of games. I'm looking at three different things. First off, I'm looking at the Nuggets playing without Jamal Murray. Give me Nikola Jokic over points and rebounds. He tends to do really well. You look at his usage without Jamal Murray, and that's kind of my theme for today, looking at guys who are playing alongside injuries. So I like Nikola Jokic today. I like Dennis Schroeder for the Brooklyn Nets. They're playing without Ben Simmons. When Ben Simmons is out, Dennis Schroeder is averaging 10 assists a game. Yeah, exactly. Ben Simmons doesn't play on back-to-backs. He doesn't. Ben Simmons just doesn't really play, respectfully. So I like Dennis Schroeder over 7.5 assists. And if there's anything else I like for this slate, I do like looking at the Boston Celtics versus the Hawks. I like Trae Young over points. Trae Young has done very well against the Celtics. The Hawks tend to play the Celtics close. And without DeJounte Murray, Trae Young is averaging, 28 points a game. I think he goes out and drops a 30 ball on the Boston Celtics.
I can definitely see that. What about Monday Night Football?
Monday Night Football, this is a fun game. This is, in my opinion, a Cade Otton game. I'm looking at the tight ends for this game on both sides. I like Travis Kelce, but the Chiefs tend to, really game plan around what's best. And this Buccaneers team, albeit no Chris Godwin, I think that they're really going to focus on the rushing attack. Sean Tucker, Rashad White, and Bucky Irving, a three-headed monster at the running back position. I think the Chiefs really try to take them out, load the box. And I think we see Cade Otton get 5 receptions, 50-plus yards. So I think I'd be parlaying that. 50-plus yards, 5 receptions. I'd also look at Rashad White's over in receptions. He's a guy where consistently he's been a threat in the receiving game, and he's not an elite runner anymore, but he is a dominant pass catcher. So I'd be looking at that, and just straight up looking at the game in general, I think that this game is 9.5 points. Give me the Buccaneers plus 9.5. I think they keep it within 10 points. That's just too many points on prime time.
It's definitely going to be. I love. Actually, this is one of my favorite games. I love watching the Bucs and the Chiefs play. It's always going to be a lot of fireworks. I think Baker Mayfield's going to be ready to go. I still think the Chiefs pull that game out, but I think it'll be a back and forth game for a little bit. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. We'll be back here live tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. same time. as we bring to you guys another episode of the Sit Down Morning Show with Malik Wright. Remember, there's only one way you should be waking up, talking sports, having the conversation, enjoying debating with your friends, and that is the right way. Until tomorrow at 10 a.m.